Hi.
Short Bus Debate Club. It's a bus rolling.
I can get on board. Hello, I'm Darren Jolly.
It's time to get this short bus started. So let's roll and on with the show. Hello, everyone. Brian Courtney, Short Bus Debate Club. Today is Wednesday, so we're making it a little lighter, and we're talking about monsters and their evolution. I don't know. Monsters I remember when I was a little kid, or things that they wanted to be monstrous, I guess. And just kind of how monsters started sparkling in the 2000s and frickin', what we've got now, and just kind of how they, I don't know, spawned into what we have today. Of course, Darren Jolly is here with me.
Hello.
And so, I don't know.
Rocket coaches.
The monsters. Well, when you say that, like some of the first monster movies I remember seeing, of course, when I was a really little kid, black and white movies, I saw, the Wolfman and one of the vampire movies, but like the creature from the Black Lagoon and all those black and whites.
Wolfman was Lon Chaney Jr.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. So that was one of them that I saw, and that one was black and white, right?
Yeah, that was
okay.
The old ass fucking Wolfman.
Okay, so that was, the first ones I remember seeing like on Sunday TV when I was like 5 or 6 years old. But then when we got into like the later 70s, I remember monsters were now just normal shit. It was rats, or ants that got really fucking big.
Fucking ants. The first movie that I remember watching that just like fucking terrified me was fucking giant ants, and I don't have any idea why that, because I don't fucking care about ants.
Right.
They just, and they'd be eating like these giant pieces of sugar and shit and herding fucking people up, and I was like,
The giant ants. There were giant mice and rats.
Spiders. They did spiders.
There were also spiders, and then there were ones that were regular sized, but there were just lots of them. And I think that they took that from like Hitchcock's The Birds, and kind of, went with that,
like arachnophobia thing. And stuff like that.
Right.
Sorta.
Well, arachnophobia. Oh, you mean the shitty movie, or?
Well, that was like the early '80s, but that was coming off of that,
Yeah.
Shit swooping in on you, and of course people really love spiders too. Maybe that's a different thing. Sorry.
No, I that was the same thing, but that's what I was saying, because I remember there was another movie where everybody was kind of terrified, and it wasn't that they were giant, but there were shitloads of them, and I remember shitloads of mice like running through tunnels, and they were running through walls and stuff. And these people were freaking out because they could like hear them scratching on the walls and, squeaking and shit as they were going.
The sound would be an important thing with the rats.
I would think so. But those were monsters, and maybe they did them that way then because, if you look back to the black and white ones I was talking about, the creature, the Black Lagoon, not good special effects. No. The Wolfman, not good special effects.
But it was good. I mean, like in terms of like visual, like in that time period, you got to start from somewhere,
Yes.
I mean, you got fucking Bela Lugosi and fucking Boris Karloff and shit like that.
Vincent Price.
Yeah, you got. I mean, their faces were fucking weird and freaky. I was looking at this dude.
The Mummy was another one.
The Mummy.
An old black and white
one.
Yeah.
They it was all the very traditional things that they used back then. Like this, but even like in the '80s, a lot of the times they were, like you said, if they were bringing something in, like in relation to the birds, like I remember the Swamp Thing, that was just like the creature from the Black Lagoon, like reinvented for.
Kind of, but I think Swamp Thing was based on the comic book.
That was a comic.
Yeah, because that was the one with Adrienne Barbeau, right?
I don't. You know what I remember from that movie? I remember that they cut his fucking arm off,
and
then
back.
He stuck it in the light. Yeah, and it grew back.
That was the comic book one. And I loved that movie when I was a kid too. You know, though, so for some reason I went from the black and whites, which I remember watching, to the ants and shit, which were in color. But then I just completely fucking skipped over George Romero's Night of the Living Dead.
That's important shit, dude.
And
zombies and all that stuff.
And that movie obviously, you know, did a lot for zombies all the way across up until now. But that movie scared the shit out of my mom and all of her sisters. I mean, they were fucking petrified of that. I mean, it scared the shit out of them, and I watch it and kind of laugh, but it was important because he influenced Shaun of the Dead, which is one of my favorite fucking movies ever.
Is funny. Yeah. Really, ever? I mean, it's a good movie.
One of them ever. Right. Not the.
There's a lot of ever though.
Right.
I mean, ever's a big. Yeah.
And it varies again, but I mean, I can watch that thing over and over and over again.
I think I watched it twice, but it really made me fucking laugh. I mean, that's for sure.
That's hysterical, dude. You've got red on you. Anyway.
Was that a line in the movie?
Yeah. Okay. You actually looked at your hand. I didn't know.
It wasn't one of my efforts, so it's not imprinted on my.
But that was a huge influence for The Walking Dead. And, you know, I mean, it's funny how we kind of run in cycles. Like, for a long time, it was werewolves. In the 80s, it was werewolves. You know,
I remember Silver Bullet.
Well, so
I remember. Oh, and of course, yeah.
What's American Werewolf in London?
Yeah, one of the most.
Wolfen, The Howling.
The Howling, yeah.
Wolfen. Yeah.
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, Teen Wolf. Well, Wolfen.
You can do Shaun of the Dead.
Because Wolfen kind of had to do with the, you know, Native American skinwalkers.
Really?
Yeah, because they were all, they worked big iron in New York. Apparently, Native Americans are not afraid of heights or something, so they, you know.
They use them up on the scaffolding.
Yeah, so they work in these big skyscrapers building them. And there was a werewolf on the loose, and it somehow tied to the Native Americans and whatever. So they brought another myth. I think you'd call it a myth with the skinwalkers into that werewolf movie. Skinwalkers were they were able to basically transform themselves into animals.
Yeah, like really like Yaqui Indian kind of shit.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I gotcha.
So they pulled that myth in and kind of tied it together with the werewolves. So in the 80s, it was werewolves.
The wolf with Jack Nicholson.
With
Nicholson and what's the goofy guy? And Michelle Pfeiffer.
I remember Michelle Pfeiffer. That's who I was about to say, but I don't know who the goofy guy is.
He was the bad guy in Pretty in Pink.
James Spader?
James Spader, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. God, that dude's had a lot of weird fucking roles in his life.
Yeah, and he's been in a lot of shit too. Like they all got famous, you know.
The Secretary, that was a great film.
What was The Secretary?
It was a fetish movie with James Spader and what's the brother sister
Arquette?
No, later. Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal. She sat there for 3 days with her hands on a table and like Peter Pants and shit like that. Fucking weird movie. Yeah. But like one of the it predated that you were talking shit about a couple of weeks ago, the Shades of Grey, whatever that one. But
yeah.
This was really like honest to goodness, like like fetish, like S&M kind of stuff.
Okay.
Nothing to do with horror or
Yeah,
monsters,
so he was
sure.
in Wolf with Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
So there in the 80s there were a lot of
A lot of
werewolf
wolf movies.
movies.
Yeah.
I think in the 90s we kind of started to see more vampire movies, and vampires went on for a really fucking long time.
Interview. What was the good one? Well, the goodish one with Keanu Reeves.
Dracula.
Dracula. Yeah. What else did they do that was vampire?
There were a whole bunch of them, but then because then that took us into like the early 2000s where those fucking stupid sparkly ones were.
Twilight, but that's both werewolves and that's both of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Wow, you really have no idea.
No.
That maybe that's good for you.
Well, somebody told me that they sparkled.
Before we jump too far,
and I laughed.
Before we jump too far ahead, there was a whole genre of weird fucking monster movies that came out, like weird fucking B-rate horror shit in the
Like
70s and
Attack
the
of the
80s.
Killer Tomatoes.
No, dude, this is like there's a guy that comes into my station and that's all he does is sell fucking weird. He sends 3 DVDs every single day, and it's all this fucking weird. It's like Peter Jackson before he made the fucking Lord of the Rings. He made these fucking weird ass horror movies, and this is not stuff that you're gonna find on an Internet Movie Database, right? But there was a whole fucking where like weird ass fucking horror, and it would have been more along the lines of the fucking George Romero stuff, like really early George Romero stuff.
Okay.
Where they're using like fucking baloney and shit like that, But
I've seen a bunch of those.
Yeah, I just didn't want to. I don't know a ton about that. I'm not a horror aficionado, but there was a bunch of monster stuff that came out of that. But okay, we're on.
Well, but see, and that's where I didn't, because through the early 80s up until, I don't know, probably early 2000s, the slasher movie kind of stuck with it, and I didn't bring those up because I thought.
You mean like Halloween kind of?
Yeah,
stuff?
those My Bloody Valentine
horror.
and right, that's horror
so much.
Right.
The only reason there was some monster stuff that was tied into some of that, but I think I don't know.
Yeah, and
to really talk about it. I just wanted to throw a homage.
Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy. I don't know if those guys are monsters, like, because they were people, and don't get me wrong, people can be monsters, but I just wanted to really talk about how
monster.
Yeah, and how it's weird that they seem to be grouped together, and maybe I'm completely fucking off my rocker. I don't know, but it seemed like they really do group them together, and then after the vampires came the zombies, and it doesn't seem like the zombies are going to let up at all. But then
the zombie stuff isn't just an American phenomenon either. There's like a whole fucking like Train to Busan and that one that you were looking at on Netflix the other day. There's a whole Korean like zombie film industry now.
Really?
Yes. Starting with Train to Busan, and that's like it's something you got to watch. I have not watched it, but I've had several people tell me to watch it. Jeannie, who is an aficionado on everything Korean, says yes, no, and she says you got to watch Train to Busan. It's an important film.
Okay, so does that mean that as far as monsters go, that werewolves and swamp creatures and vampires are done? Are we seriously in? Because it's been, usually you see these things run in cycles, and don't get me wrong, some of the zombie stuff is okay, but
what do you like? What don't you like?
Well, and that's weird because some of the Romero stuff I like, and some of it I don't, because he's done so many. And a lot of that.
He's grown with it, though. That's what makes him kind of interesting with regards to.
Well, because he did Night, and he did Night again, but he's done Dawn and Day, and there was one.
He didn't do Return. That was somebody else, right? Return of the Living Dead.
Well,
1,
I
2, and
think he
3.
did one of the returns too. And that's where it gets kind of confusing because he puts his name on a lot of it. But there was one that he did where it was really dystopian because they had taken all, and again, this is where all of the rich people separate themselves and put up a big wall and protect themselves from the zombies. The poor people have to, man the wall and then go out and search for, stuff that the rich people need. And I can't remember the name of that one, but that one was really good. The Walking Dead I liked.
Did you like 28 Days Later? Did you see those ones?
See, I don't know, and maybe that's something that's important that we talk about. Like, I guess I saw so many of the Romero things that like 28 days and 28 weeks later, and what was it, World War Z?
I really fucking like World War. I mean, it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a brilliant, but there were some things in it that I thought were interesting.
I think I like the story, but I don't understand when they started making zombies run, like, and not just run, but fucking run, like flat,
World War Z,
fucking yeah. I mean,
not like fucking with the kids in Georgia, like they're all walkers,
right? Yeah. I mean, seriously. So
yeah, that's right. 28 Days Later, that they ran in that too. They're flat out fucking coming to kill you.
Yeah, they go at it.
They were different. I didn't even make that distinction in my head, but those two, those are the only two that I remember that were really.
Well, so the 28 days, 28 weeks, yeah. And then World War Z, all of them, they run.
Runners, yeah.
And I don't know if there are any others that do it, but I think that those are the reasons that I don't really like those movies is because they all run.
Dude, fucking 28 Days Later, that fucking scared me, dude. That was a freaky. And I like the lead, and that he's fucking a weirdo.
Well, maybe it was 28 weeks where that one was the one that kind of freaked me out because he kept having that dream of the fucking them running after him.
The Full Monty guy?
I don't know. He's British, which I know
they're
doesn't
all
help.
Fucking British.
Right.
The Full Monty guy died. Did he end up dying? The one you're talking about?
Yeah, because his wife fucking.
Spoiler alert.
his wife bit into his neck.
Yeah, that was the Full Monty guy. You never saw Full Monty? It was kind of funny. I saw it in the theater. I don't know why, but
fuck. What was the name of that movie? There's a spoof type movie. Yeah, that was him. Where they had zombies, vampires, werewolves, and they were all living together in this town, and nobody really liked the zombies. God damn it, what the fuck was the name of that movie? It was hilarious. Not Shaun of the Dead hilarious, but I think Dennis Leary was in it.
They had zombies that nobody liked.
Yeah.
I remember the one where the girl ends up falling in love with the zombie, which was kind of funny.
What is that? The I'm in love with the teenage zombie?
No. It was kind of clever.
You mean when the vampire fell in love with the zombie?
No. It was this regular girl, and they're all like they're living in, I think, a plane or something like that.
Oh yeah, that was
and she ends up.
That was Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
That was based on a book, also.
Yeah, that was based on a book. That's correct. That was a fucking funny movie, dude. Jeannie really liked that as a kid, and she did not like shit like that very much.
Well, it was well done, and I liked the beginning of it because. He was talking, he showed all of the people at the airport when he's narrating, and he's like, you know, they used to do so much, I'm sure, and they just show everybody on their phones. And it was just shit like that that made me laugh, because that's kind of really where we are. I mean, and that
Yeah, we're zombies.
illustrated it is that we are all zombies. I mean, nobody really pays attention to what's
Shit
going on
at
around
all.
them.
It's incredible, like how little people pay attention to anything. Like we are not even close to historical actors anymore. Like the whole world exists in our mind, and we see all these things that occur outside of us, but we don't feel like we can affect anything. Our political system, like we root for teams. Now I'm degenerating into goofiness right now that I really don't want to. But there's no doubt, like the yeah, making fun of people that are sitting there going through the process of being abstracted from the thing itself, which is essentially the point. Because the thing itself is everything that is it really happening, right?
So I found that movie.
What is it called?
It's called Freaks of Nature. Vampires, humans, and zombies used to get along, but then something unexpected arrived, and now it's humans versus vampires versus zombies in all-out Mortal Kombat.
I did see some of that.
It was fucking hilarious. I laughed my ass off.
Who was in it?
Dennis Leary was in it. Bob Odenkirk was in it, which I forgot about
Bob
him.
Odenkirk?
Better Call Saul.
He's actually quite. He's kind of showed up, man.
Oh, dude, he's funny. He was in a show called Mr. Show with Bob and David.
I didn't watch it, but I know Mr. Show.
And that was with David Cross, and David Cross is fucking funny too.
But that's a movie where you got a collection of all kinds of different weird. You got vampires, you got humans, you got fucking the people who eat people's brains.
Yeah, zombies, and there was some weird alien thing that came in.
George Romero didn't have anything to do with Return of the Living Dead. He didn't have anything.
No,
which I thought was interesting. Brains.
But he really was the guy. I mean, so you could say Bram Stoker did for vampires what George Romero did for zombies, or vice versa. I mean, both of them. So Bram Stoker wrote a book and made vampires famous, and Romero did a movie and did essentially the same thing. I don't think you can say any one person did that for werewolves.
Where does the lore come from, though? I mean, like, honestly. And that's where does the lore for zombies come from in the first place?
Well, so zombies, like, I used to read those Time Life books a lot. And I think, I don't know for a fact, but I think a lot of it has to do with, like voodoo and shit. They could actually put people to sleep and bring them back into like this weird zombie state. There was also, from what I read, and I can't remember what it was called, but there was some kind of drug that they could give people that made them into like zombie like and all of that has to do with like these weird religions, maybe even like Santeria, but voodoo and whoever the voodoo practitioners are. I'm pretty sure that that's where the zombies came from. As far as a werewolf goes, I don't know. I think you could probably tie it to like the skinwalkers, and
which is actually, I know you love the sparkly ones, but the werewolves in the Twilight books are
Native American.
And they transform. They're in there. They have their little, their very small tribe, and when vampires came and threatened their tribe a long time ago, so they would turn into werewolves so that they could defend the tribe. That's like where the concept came. So there would be a bunch of werewolves. More of them would it would come out in the teenagers.
See, there's a bunch of those movies, not the sparkly ones, but what's her name? I think her name was Kate something. She played a vampire who wore like a tight fucking leather suit, and they were always fighting with vampires.
The Lycans and what was Underworld was the name of that show.
Yeah.
I only watched the first. They made like 15 of those fucking.
There
and the
were a
Lycans
bunch.
they would fight for fucking like eons and eons. They knew each other forever.
Well, and it turned out that one of them was actually part vampire and part Lycan, and they didn't want that secret to get out because it would ruin
the hatred because they're all one.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
We are the werewolves, and we are the vampires. We don't have to eat each other and stake the other one in the chest.
I'm pretty sure it was a horrible fucking. Oh shit, dude! I forgot. The Lost Boys came out in the 80s.
Lost Boys, dude, that was a fucking great movie, dude. One thing I never could sumish about San Dimas. All the damn vampires.
And there were a shitload of zombie movies in the 80s too. So maybe they don't group them together.
What zombie movies came out in the 80s? Well, other than fucking Return of the Living Dead and all that stupid
But there's
shit.
two of them. There's Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
1, 2, and 3, actually.
Really? They're all returns?
Yeah.
Okay, so... Well, those all came out in the 80s, so those were the ones I was talking about.
I remember they were kind of funny, too. I mean, they were stupid as fuck, but they were kind of funny. There's a lot of stuff that's sort of like being reinvented, though, because there's so much money in these production companies. Like, I saw this stupid fucking, like, crazy spiders coming at you one, and you know what caused these giant crazy spiders to all come and develop? The food that people were putting in their wheat plant pot or the pot plants to grow. I did never watch that one, although it looked like it probably was Academy Award material.
Do you remember Night of the Comet?
Yeah, I do. That was a dumb fucking movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. Yeah, because like everybody that was outside of a metal building
that got dusted with
by the comet. That's right.
And then there was another one where somebody ate something and they all ended up turning into zombies. I think Corey Haim or Corey Feldman was in that, so you knew it had to be good.
License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream.
Yeah. What the fuck was the name of that movie?
Yeah, that one I don't know. Eat something and then turn into zombies. I'm going to admit something to you right now that people can use against me forever because this will go into the annals of the internet from here forward. But Annie, because she read a ton of shit. I mean, when she would fucking find something that she was into, she would read it like she got that. I mean, she read all the Hobbit stuff in like 5 fucking minutes. I told you that she got the Game of Thrones stuff. When season 6 came out, she went back through everything and like within 2 weeks reread all of them. And I'm sorry, like, and I mean, that's not an exaggeration. She would read like fucking nuts, and she wasn't like speed reading it. She would remember everything from inside of them and stuff. But I was talking shit to her about Twilight because she had read all the Twilight books, and she's like, I'm gonna go see the movie with Young. And then when they went to go see it, and she's like, she looks just like I imagined Bella looked like in my head. And I was like, honey, those books are fucking trash. And she's like, fuck you. She said, you can't say that to me. You've never even looked at them, And I mean, like I said, she read like everything that she read from fucking top to bottom. And she dared me, and I've read all of the books twice, actually.
Oh, they were so good you had to go back a second time?
No, they weren't so good, but I read them twice. I haven't read the new book about Edward yet, but I'm pretty sure I'll read that at some point in time too. And I should probably slip my wrist in a warm tub for admitting to that publicly, but I read trash sometimes every now and again.
Well, I don't know why you had to say twice.
Because it's the truth. I'd rather be honest about things, you know. And if I'm going to throw all these prescriptions about what I think people need to do in the world, I at least need to be honest about what my shortcomings are. And I do consider reading the Twilight canon twice a shortcoming.
See, I don't know.
You're looking for that one, huh? Where the Corey Haim why don't you just go to Corey Haim?
Because I don't know for sure if they were in it.
So what movies what are the best horror movies that you've in your life? The ones that you like the best?
I don't know. Again, I didn't want to talk about horror movies.
Well, the monster movies.
I wanted to talk about monsters, and the reason that I wanted to talk about them was just because things have really. I mean, again, you know, when I'm a kid, I'm watching movies about giant ants and shit. Not necessarily scary, but just, you know, they pass the time.
With that really weird old, like the old Wolfman.
Yeah. And, you know, I honestly, because I think I kind of like that kitsch, you know, I like a lot of those. I like Dawn of the Dead. I like Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead. I'm not familiar with those.
Land of the Dead is the one I was talking about, where it's kind of dystopian, and they throw them out on this island to protect themselves from zombies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm a huge horror or monster type fan. I do like werewolf movies, you know. For a long time, when I was 14, I thought I was a werewolf because of the weird fucking dreams and shit I was having, which is goofy as hell because I'm not a werewolf. But
maybe you need to go talk to some of those psychiatrists we were talking about in the last episode.
Yeah, well, I talked to a shrink. I didn't tell her about the werewolf thing. But she told me if I want to feel better, I just need to work on getting rid of my pain. So I told her she was not very helpful and left. But I honestly, I liked some of those, the ones you just gave me the fucking name of, and now I can't remember. The Underworld stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I liked some of those because they were new and different. It was now an action type movie and they were fighting each other. The one thing that kind of pisses me off, though, and not because I think I'm a werewolf, but I don't understand why werewolves are always the weaker species in any of these movies.
Are they always the weaker species?
They seem to be. You know, they're that way in the Underworld stuff. Hugh Jackman did a movie.
The Wolfman. Yeah.
Where he was the vampire hunter. He was Van Helsing.
Okay.
And the werewolf was a weaker species there too.
Really?
They always seem to be weaker, and that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, they say that there are dogs that guard a vampire while they sleep during the day. But that dog doesn't necessarily mean it's a werewolf. It's just a regular fucking dog. So
the ones that were in The Lost Boys were just definitely dogs.
Right. And I thought they were just supposed to be dogs like the Hounds of Hell. Again, I'm basing this off the Lost Boys. Yeah. So I don't know. I do like. If I was to pick a horror movie, and I don't know if it would be horror or comedy, but Shaun of the Dead would definitely be there. But again, I just like to see the change, and I'm really kind of curious what the next
iteration.
Yeah, what the next thing is going to be within Monsters, because we didn't even talk about them, but that was another big monster that ended up making some big changes. Was Godzilla. When I was
like huge culturally too, dude.
Yeah, and they never did, or in the newer ones, you don't see Mothra or any of the other weird monsters that Godzilla had to fight. I guess you kind of see them in that one King Kong movie, but King Kong is another one. He's older than Godzilla, or at least here in the United States, he's older than Godzilla. And I remember watching them as a kid. And then now, with special effects and everything, they're just so fucking cool. But in this last one, I was pissed because Godzilla was kicking the shit out of King Kong, and I didn't like that at all. That was wrong as far as I was concerned.
Did you see the new one, the Godzilla versus Kong, the one from last year?
Yeah, that's what that Godzilla was kicking the shit out of him.
But didn't they? Is that the one where they end up going to this weird other part
underground? Yeah.
It's like a different dimension ultimately of the Earth. Like they literally travel through this.
Yeah. They have to go through some sort of anti-gravitational something or other. Yeah. But the only reason Godzilla doesn't end up killing King Kong is because they both end up fighting Mecha Godzilla.
Mecha?
Yeah.
You mean like Mecha like a high, Mecha hiney ho?
Mecha like Mecha robot.
Oh, when I really think of Mecha, I thought it might have been like Ramadan or something like that.
Yeah, he was fighting a big cube. No, so they went through a lot of changes, and that new one was the one you kind of saw some of the other monsters that they talked about. But when you look back into the 70s, they did a lot with Godzilla. And granted, the special effects were fucking horrible, and it's just walking on, tiny, like, train towns or whatever. And now they can do a lot more, but we barely talked about Godzilla, and that was another thing that they considered a monster. Now, I don't think he was supposed to be a scary monster, was he?
Godzilla?
Yeah.
I always thought, like, with the Japanese stuff, it was like a metaphor for, like, the ocean and, like, huge weather things coming through it. Yeah, maybe what happened, in World War II. I mean, I for some reason, when I took the picture, it really seemed more metaphorical to me. So then is Pacific Rim, is that like a new iteration of, like, Godzilla then?
Oh, maybe. I forgot about those weird monsters that come out of the cracks in the ocean. Okay. But Godzilla, now that I think about it, see, I never was scared of Godzilla when I was a kid. I always thought he was so fucking cool. But then they came up with those cartoons, and Godzilla had a little Godzuki, which was like the baby Godzilla. Do you not remember that cartoon?
I did not see the Godzuki.
And he couldn't blow fire, he could just blow smoke rings. You really don't remember that?
No, but it's funny. It makes me laugh.
So maybe he wasn't supposed to be scary.
Godzuki.
And maybe I got that name wrong. But yeah. And I've heard that it was a metaphor, and it was about, mainly
World War II, probably. Yeah.
Radiation and
I mean, that would have been something. I mean, to see that happen, for anybody that would have seen that happen, I mean,
fucking up an entire island.
You'd need a metaphor to sort of, like, negotiate a lot of the things that happened. I think probably, and not just for the fucking atomic weapons, but for the fucking the weird oil, like the flash fire bombs that they were. Which I guess Germany didn't come up with any weird metaphors for them, but what the fuck? Different cultures have different ways of negotiating horrible things. That's for sure.
Yeah, now because I just kind of dismissed that movie Pacific Rim. I mean, I watched it, but I
liked it. I liked the first one. The second one was kind of dumb, but I liked the first one. I mean,
there was a second one.
Yeah, called Uprising. Yeah, they're not good movies by any stretch. None of these movies I would consider to be good movies by any stretch of the imagination. But
maybe I need to go watch it again.
I like the first Pacific Rim. I liked a fair amount. So.
Well, so you asked me the monster question, or what were my favorite monster movies. I will tell you that my favorite monster is the werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily monster movie, because all of those movies, like fucking American Werewolf in London and Wolfen and The Howling and all of those, scared the piss out of me when I was a kid.
The Paris one was stupid. American Wolf.
Super fucking stupid. Yeah. And I can watch them now without getting scared, but I mean,
why did that scare you?
I don't fucking know. Maybe because I was 8. I don't know. What's your favorite monster, or what's your favorite monster movie?
Yeah, I don't even know how to. Like, I don't even know where to even. Like, because it changes. Like, I would say that on DVD I have Pacific Rim and I have what was he? Like, those are movies that I like, but they're not. I don't watch those movies because they drive anything, you know. I mean, it's not like watching Pulp Fiction, you know, where I'm thinking about fucking whether or not the Band-Aid on the back of fucking what Marsalis' head is fucking his soul, you know, or some shit like that, you know. I mean, these aren't movies, but I think that, like, sometimes, like, the underworld stuff interests me because I like mythology, right? One thing that if you're going to do a really, really good next iteration, I think one thing that would be cool to do is for people to take this part of our psyche that is, you know, come into being through monsters and put some sort of a peculiar, you know, mythology in place. Like the Lycan vampire thing that was in Underworld. The one thing that's appealing to me in it, I just don't have the patience for it because I watched like 2 of them and I just didn't like the way that it was unfolding. It doesn't give me that mythology space, but somehow or another, it seems like this stuff comes from somewhere that ties to stuff like old Greek mythology, or, you know, where if you found, and I'm not saying that that's literally where it comes from, but the things that are in Greek mythology, like the Titans and all that kind of shit, you could probably do something with monsters, and if you found a way to construct a mythology, not only would that be something that would be interesting, but it's probably a $1 trillion idea, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, and I don't know if movie makers or authors or whatever have tied any of this stuff in. You know, I think Bram Stoker did to some degree. Another thing, you know, we never talked about, we didn't talk about Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. We didn't talk about Frankenstein's monster. And I think a lot of all of that stuff is tied into, you know, like I've told you, and we've discussed how the stories in the Bible are just, you know, to get prescribed responses out of a population. And I think that a lot of these monster stories are similar in the fact that, and not a prescribed response, but they're used to explain something that they couldn't explain. You know, babies were dying or, you know, disappearing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these stories came up. People were stealing parts in graveyards and shit like that. You know, so you end up with, well, and they actually had mummies in Cairo. So I don't know. I've read stuff where historians talk about people justifying it by telling stories like this. I mean, why do you get stories like the chupacabra? Again, trying to justify cattle being slaughtered, maybe trying to scare the shit out of your kids so that they don't go wander around at night.
This is why I think a mythology would be a fun, because if you do that and you fucking tie all these weird fucking things into it, like in a greater social context.
Right.
The Mary Shelley thing, though, it's too bad because that was science, I mean, they were asking certain questions about science and was science going too far? And of course, like there were certain feminist concepts that Mary Shelley was addressing as well. So, but
we should have talked about it more. And I actually had pulled up some notes on her book prior to the call. I don't know why. It just completely slipped my mind.
We can get kind of tangent oriented, that's for sure. We're not stuck to a fucking script, that's for sure.
No, we wander around quite a bit. But yeah, so I don't know. And maybe we're going to end up having to fucking talk about monsters again, except we'll tie it more to real people.
Maybe you can explain to us a little bit more about why you thought you were a werewolf.
Yeah, that's for another episode. All right. So TikTok, Short Bus Debate Club, Twitter, Short Bus Debate. Number
720-334-ROLL.
You got your ukulele?
I don't have it in my hand. I'm just gonna sing. But so what are we gonna do on?
Oh fuck, I don't know.
Friday.
Next episode is
We're gonna talk. Well, it was elite. Well, undocumented.
Oh yeah. Illegal.
We're gonna continue on with invisible people for a minute. So.
Yeah, I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate being called invisible.
I'm saying invisible not to be hateful of them. I'm saying that as generally speaking, like people that were
people that are unseen,
homeless,
uncounted.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Ignored.
We're seeing them.
Discounted. Anyway.
The tires are the things on your short bus that make contact with the road.
With the road.
Tires are the things on your short bus that get you back to your abode.
See you guys later.